This is a massive slide for Great Britain and Amy Williams. Oh my goodness.
Amy Williams' skeleton bob gold medal at the 2010 Winter Games was achieved with the help of Rachel Blackburn and James Roach, both engineering doctorate students at Southampton University School of Engineering.
When we first had the sleds, I mean, I was losing track of which sled was where and who had what, and in the sailing world you all name your boats. So I was like, come on guys, you've got to name your sleds and think of a name for them. Either that or I'm issuing it a number, and that just doesn't seem fair. So some have numbers and some have names, but Amy bonded with Arthur straight away.
Sort of long history in Southampton of being involved in performance sport, particularly America's Cup and Formula One. And in the summer of 2006, Skeleton had done quite well and had some money, and so we were approached for the 2 engineering doctorate students for funding for them.
Having spent some time rig testing and track testing and really looking in depth as to how and why the components of existing sleds were working as they were, we found lots of things we wanted to change, and through coming up with designs on how we could modify existing sleds, it turned out that the sleds could no longer take on all of our modifications, so we ended up starting from scratch and redesigning the whole sled and producing them. So one of the key things that we noticed was the fact that all athletes used the same sled within the Team GB squad. And that was one of the first things we addressed, because the athletes come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. So the rules are quite tight from the sport, however there are gaps, and we started to tailor-make the sleds to fit the athletes. So that was one of the key things that's noticeable to everyone. And one of the more subtle things was, when you set up your sled, you set it up for different conditions, be that the temperature of the ice or the weather or the type of track, because they vary in technicality for driving. And the key thing that you change here is the setting of the runners and the footprint in which you have in contact with the ice and the track. One of the things that the athletes struggled with was making sure the runners were set properly. So we created a ratchet system within the sled which ensured the runners stayed as they were set, and they were really pleased with this. I mean, it meant they could set their sled up a few hours before and it was ready for them on race time, nothing to worry about. It was simple and basic engineering ideas, and I mean, it's chassis dynamics essentially inside the sled. There's just a steel frame with other components that make it work in the way that it does. There were no real new innovations, but there were taking from other aspects in the world. You know, we looked at vehicle dynamics, bobsleighs, lots of other sports.
We're always looking to do fundamental research, and then in an engineering context apply that research to real-world problems. Performance sport is another set of real-world problems with its own particular challenges. It runs to very tight time schedules, it runs to very tight performance margins, and it's a kind of ultimate test. You know, you get Amy Williams in the bob skeleton had about less than 220 seconds of total run time to determine whether she got a medal or not. The technology she uses, the preparation she has and made, and her skills have to be delivered in that short time scale. So it's a real cutting-edge challenge to university to support such work.
We're such a small nation, especially when it comes to winter sports, that if we can be up there in 1 or 2 sports, then, you know, it's really, really exciting.